The second invasion of the Sarate has been insane. Just so many hype moments, big character beats, and surprising revelations. But just when things seem to be going our way, things get complicated again. It was hard seeing my boy Kenny get swarmed by Bambi's friends like this, but at the same time, I was just soaking up the hype that was the reason for it. The Stern Ritter made it clear just how much of a threat Kenpachi is, and reiterated that he's considered one of their special threats, something that hasn't been brought up for a while, but is a concept that comes back with a vengeance now, with Ichigo finally arriving on the battlefield too. Let's be honest, Ichigo has always had a way with entrances, and this is no exception. It was very exciting and built up perfectly, because now we need him more than ever, and Ichigo himself set us up for something great after he pretty much guaranteed that he would handle everything when he arrived. That was a pretty bold claim and surprising when he says it, but it's fun getting to see him try to back those words up, and he's like fairly successful for a little bit. After all, this is a very different Ichigo than the one that also came late to the last invasion. We obviously saw him learn the full truth about himself and forge new blades and go through all of that personal growth, but there are whole portions of his training that we didn't get an in-depth look at. The manga straight up didn't show any of it really, while the anime gave us little snippets to try to glean some information from. I've been vocal before in my theory that the whole reason Ichigo might have been chosen to be trained in the first place was to either become part of Squad Zero or maybe even become a successor to the Soul King, and it seemed like he was being given incredible power. Ichibei even said when Ichigo started his descent that Ichigo was beyond a Soul Reaper now. So maybe he has transcended to what Aizen used the Hogyaku to turn into, but in a much more natural way. That could be cool. And I've gotta say, in the anime adaptation, Ichigo coming down like a meteor or Superman or something, as this alternate version of number one played, just made his return so much better. The hype and the build-up as everyone's seeing him come down, so good. But it's the casualness after he arrives that really makes it work, as he just ignores his opponents and checks in on Kenny. I love the respect they've always had for one another ever since their first fight, and this is kind of a passing the baton moment, as Ichigo is gonna take on Bambietta's friends. And Ichigo handles them much more easily than Kenny, but I'm gonna chalk it up to my boy being tired from slicing meteors and getting sucked into the vacuum of space and getting drowned in water and attacked by like kamikaze doppelgangers. All of that'll tire anyone out. This doesn't mean anything. Kenpachi still might be able to beat Ichigo in a fight. As far as I'm concerned, he could still take him. By the way, I love this new look for Ichigo. It might be my favorite design for him so far throughout the series. The contrast of the black and white obviously has always been a big part of Bleach and the look of the Soul Reapers, but the extra bits of white really pop, and I love that it's more of like an armor. He looks more official, more ready for battle, and he is. I think having the smaller blades instead of a big massive one on his back makes him a little sleeker looking too. Obviously the giant sword is iconic, and one of his swords is still pretty big in the grand scheme of things, but I don't know, I just love this look. As cool as it was to hear them talk about Kenpachi being a special threat, they all had great reactions to Ichigo showing up, knowing that he's number one on that list. Because now he feels like number one, shining bright for everyone. I think we got 3 of the 5 threats confirmed so far, or maybe I'm forgetting a reveal, but I remember Yamamoto turned out to not be on the list. But yeah, everyone is pining to take out the number 1 special threat. With Bambietta beaten and still missing after something awful seemed to be happening to her, we get a much better look at each of her friends as they try to bring down Ichigo. Candace Catnip obviously has a great name, but she's really not a great person. She's a very loud, brash, and angry character, and comes off very unhinged like a lot of the Quincy's do, but we did get to learn her letter T is for Thunderbolt, which I should have figured a little while back when the anime showed her wings as lightning bolts, but oh well. Essentially, she's just throwing around electricity everywhere with every chance she gets. I wish she was more likable, but she works as someone you want to see Ichigo embarrass. Meninas McCullen, Minnie, is the letter P for power, which was actually one of my guesses for her, but wasn't what I settled on, damn it. But essentially, she seems to just physically be very, very strong, and not much else. else. So far, she kind of seems like the most generic of the group, really. Everyone else has kind of got their thing, but I guess she's just the actual nice one of the group, maybe? Like, that's her most defining trait so far, is that she seems kind of chill and unproblematic, but I do like the dichotomy of her being all cutesy and innocent, when she could, like, crush someone's head or drop a mountain on them if she wanted to. Lil Toto, on the other hand, is kind of terrifying when we learn that the G stands for the glutton. I've seen enough voracious characters to know how unnerving someone devouring things can be, and the visual of her mouth just like stretching off of her face is a really unsettling one, but it's like that good level between goofy and horrifying that I like with characters with this kind of ability. And I honestly love her personality and just how dour she always is. Her hunger is almost like a bother that she needs to deal with, and everything's kind of a drag and a pain. I don't know, she's just kind of fun. And when it comes to Giselle, Gigi, turns out her letter Z stands for zombie. Does what I say, the zombie! I got one! Yes! Yes, okay. Do you know how satisfying this is going to be? You guys know this board. Okay? Look at that. So this means I finally guessed one of the letters right. Now it's not a huge victory considering that Z has very, very few options. Like there's only a few words really I could have chosen from, but I'll take it. It counts. I got one. But yeah, apparently whoever she gets her blood on turns into like her zombie thralls, which is pretty wild. Though I'm curious because it doesn't necessarily seem to kill them when it first turns them, because she orders a group of Soul Reapers to take themselves out once she has control, rather than them like dying instantly. So unless she has them do that, is it mainly mind control without them being like actual walking corpses? Does it work if she gets her blood on someone dead? Would that turn them into like an actual zombie? It was nice to see the meanings of a lot of these letters all at once. It was really exciting for me personally, who's been keeping track of all this, and I kind of really like this group of ladies and their group within the Greater Vondenreich and the Sternritters. In some ways they feel a little similar to Harabel's group, but I think these individual personalities stick out to me more than those did. They're a bit more dynamic and they bounce off of each other better, I think. They're much more antagonistic even than those characters were back in the Arrancar arc. They're just they seem a bit more, I don't want to say evil, but some of them certainly seem pretty demented and memorably twisted. The anime had a fun gag where these ladies had like a Sailor Moonish transformation when they activated their Volstandish before giving them all extended fights with Ichigo, which I appreciated. They didn't do that much better, but it was cool seeing a couple more minutes of them trying to fend him off. Plus it gave us more of a chance to see Ichigo in action with his two swords and how he's effortlessly taking these people on. And naturally his fighting style is a bit different now that he's dual wielding, and it's fun to see how he's utilized the swords as he's taking on so many opponents at once on his own. It wasn't smugness or even like confidence, it was just the understanding that he's on another level than them, and he is. Baz B interrupting the fight to try to take all of the glory was interesting, especially as more of the other Sternritter came to do the same thing. I've talked before about how I love villainous group dynamics, and the competitiveness here was great. Seeing Ichigo surrounded was wild. Like, it was like they all had a hit out on him, you know, because he's the #1 special threat. It's like there's a contract on his head and they all want the bounty. I loved that the surviving Soul Reapers, his allies and friends, came to help. It was a striking reminder that he's not in this alone and that the battle is far from over still. It sets us up as this battle takes a major shift, since Yuabaha is suddenly preparing to travel up to the Soul King's palace, and he's apparently able to do it because of Ichigo crashing through the barriers on his descent, leaving them temporarily open. But it seems like maybe Squad Zero would have known that this would happen, right? So is this part of their plan? Did they want Ichigo to go down and rip open the barriers so that Yuabaha would come to them? I don't know. But this is a classic beam in the sky situation, this whole sequence. You know, back in like the mid-2010s, every movie was doing this. Like, every single one had a beam in the sky. Brought me back to that point in my life. And isn't that when this was originally coming out in the manga? Makes sense. I'm also not sure what Naklavar meant by being chosen, since it seems like just the three of Yuabaha, Uryu, and Haschwald went up, but yeah, apparently he wasn't chosen. It's honestly pretty amazing how efficient Yuabaha has been about, getting to the Soul King's palace. That was like the whole thing of Aizen's plan that he spent a whole lot of time on. But Yuabaha managed to do it, and yeah, he's had a lot of time to prep and plan as well, but it's just crazy actually seeing someone accomplish this. Although I guess my question is, was it specifically Ichigo that broke the barrier because of how fast he was going to make it down in time? Like, they had the special robes with the Oken. But Rukia, Renji, and Byakuya all also came down wearing those robes, so did they puncture the barrier too? Because that didn't get brought up, so I assume it was just Ichigo. Was his the only one that had the Oken infused in it? I don't know. But it's rough, because it's as if he didn't have enough guilt already. Now it's like, oh, I came down to help, and by doing that I actually made things potentially worse. I loved his attempt to try to right this though, as he chased after Yuabaha while being swarmed by Stern Ritter too. And according to the subtitles, the man I've been calling Commissioner Gordon is actually named Robert, which just feels like the most basic name when he's surrounded by people named Bazb, Nanana, Yuabaha, Naklavar. But then again, he has a teammate named Candace and a teammate named James, but at least James took on a less simple name, you know? But unfortunately, he's not able to stop Yuabaha because of a particular obstacle in his way, that being Uryu Ishida. Obviously, it's a big moment for Ichigo to see Uryu standing alongside the enemy. It's easy to forget that they haven't seen each other since the very beginning of this arc, even before Ichigo went to help during the Wako Mundo massacre. Ichigo learned about Uryu's parents and their history with Yuabaha, but outside of that, he has no idea what his friend has been up to. And from what I remember, Uryu doesn't know that Ichigo's a Quincy yet, right? He hasn't been told, I don't think. Unless he learned about Misaki in those books he found. Or maybe Yuabaha told him off-panel and off-screen, but that would probably be a big shock for him, but might be nice learning that there's another Quincy outside of his, deadbeat father and his new fascist friends in the Vondenreich. It's emotional, it's impactful, to see Ichigo shock his surprise, and he doesn't want to fight Uryu, and he's mostly just confused. That will knock you off balance if suddenly one of your best friends is there shooting arrows at you, wearing the uniform of the enemy. That's gotta be quite the surprise. Orihime and Chad show up to help him, and that moment was great. As one member of their team turns his back on them, the others need to stick together stronger than ever. I really liked the timing of that. Plus, it means Chad and Orihime now see the truth about Uryu right now too, so it's bringing a lot of drama and impactfulness for these characters and their emotions. I liked that a lot. And Uryu's ascent reminded me of when the 3 treacherous Soul Reapers left the Soul Society, and you had their loved ones calling up to them, back at the end of the Soul Society arc. It had echoes of that sequence, and just like then, the cries of protest aren't able to stop the defector from leaving. So Yuabaha is going to the Soul King's palace, and we gotta stop him. We're left in a very bad place. It was such a triumphant return for Ichigo, but to have this cost where he came back, and because he came back, this happened. It was a great little reversal, and I loved it a lot. And this arc continues to keep me on my toes and continues to bring so much excitement and hype, and these chapters were no exception. And I can't wait to see how we're gonna deal with this, because I don't know how we're supposed to deal with this. We've obviously maybe gotta go up there, but Ichigo just came down, and I don't know how easy it'll be to get back up. I don't know. It'll be interesting. So yeah, very excited for what's to come. It feels like we're ramping up towards, the next stage where the Soul King is going to be in danger, and we'll see if, he's going to maybe need a successor soon, because I've got the perfect candidate lined up. So yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. We'll see what happens next. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. If you want to see more of my thoughts, there's hours and hours on Patreon of my manga read-along and anime reaction to the 1,000-Year Blood War, along with other read-alongs like Hunter x Hunter, Tokyo Ghoul. I'm watching Demon Slayer. A lot of stuff. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye.